You lock your door at night without thinking about it. You walk past strangers without knowing their names. You buy food from people you have never met. You trust buildings you did not build, rules you did not create, and systems too large for any one person to understand. That feels normal now, but for most of human history, it would have felt terrifying. Because for hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived in small groups where almost every face was familiar. Your family knew your neighbors knew your parents. Your reputation followed you like a shadow. If someone lied, stole, cheated, or helped, everyone remembered. Then, around 5,000 years ago, something changed. Humans began to live in places so large that you could walk through a street and pass people you had never seen before. People who did not know your father, people who did not know your ancestors, people who did not owe you anything. That was the first city, and it may have been one of the most shocking inventions in human history. Not because it had tall towers or paved roads or glowing lights. It had none of that. It was built from mud, clay, reeds, sweat, grain, and belief. But inside those walls, human life changed forever. For the first time, people had to survive among crowds. They had to trust strangers. They had to obey officials. They had to depend on workers they would never meet. They had to live beside noise, waste, disease, opportunity, power, and fear. The first city was not just a bigger village, it was the beginning of the world we still live in. To understand what daily life felt like inside the first city, travel back to southern Mesopotamia more than 5,000 years ago. The land is hot, flat, and alive with rivers. The Tigris and Euphrates flood the soil, carry boats, feed fields, and connect distant settlements. Around the water, humans find clay, reeds, fish, birds, grain, and the raw materials of civilization. Here, mud is not just dirt. Mud becomes bricks. Bricks become walls. Walls become houses. Houses become neighborhoods. Neighborhoods become a city. And one of the greatest of these early cities was Uruk. From far away, Uruk would not look like a modern city. There are no glass towers, no highways, no electric lights. But to someone born in a tiny farming village, it would feel almost impossible. Thousands of people live close together. Smoke rises from rooftops. Animals move through crowded streets. Workers carry baskets. Potters shape clay. Traders shout over goods. Priests climb toward sacred buildings that rise above the city like mountains made by human hands. The first thing you would notice is the sound. A village has simple sounds: wind, birds, tools, a few voices, animals, fire. But a city has layers: footsteps in narrow lanes, donkeys braying, children shouting, women grinding grain, men hauling bricks, potters slapping wet clay, merchants arguing, officials calling orders, boats scraping against riverbanks, drums or chants echoing from temple spaces. The city never feels completely still. Even when the sun drops, life does not vanish. Fires glow, families gather, animals shift in the dark. Someone repairs a wall, someone guards storage, someone whispers a prayer. This is not silence. This is organized human pressure. And in the middle of it all stands the temple. In the first city, religion is not just something people believe privately. It is something they build. The biggest structures are not homes. They are sacred platforms, temples, storehouses, and administrative spaces. They rise above ordinary life and tell everyone the same message: power lives here. The temple is not only a place for prayer, it is also an economic center. It stores grain, it receives goods, it organizes workers, it supports priests, craftsmen, laborers, and officials. It helps transform thousands of individual lives into one system. This is what makes the first city so different from a village. In a small village, most families know how to produce many of the things they need. They farm, cook, repair, build, gather, and survive through kinship. But in the city, survival becomes a network. A potter needs grain from farmers. A farmer needs tools from craftsmen. A builder needs food rations. A priest needs workers. A trader needs boats, seals, weights, and trust. A family needs water, fuel, food, shelter, protection, and access to the system. No one is truly independent anymore. The city makes people powerful together, but vulnerable alone. That is one of the first great trade-offs of civilization. Now picture a normal morning inside Uruk. The sun rises over mud brick rooftops. Heat slowly builds in the air. A family wakes inside a small house, close to other houses, packed into a dense neighborhood. The walls are made of dried mud brick. The floor may be clay. Storage jars sit along the walls. Baskets hang near tools. Mats cover parts of the floor. There is no bedroom in the modern sense. No refrigerator, no private bathroom, no running water from a faucet, no switch to bring light. Everything depends on labor. Someone must fetch water. Someone must grind grain. Someone must prepare bread or porridge. Someone must tend animals. Someone must repair tools. Someone must carry goods, shape clay, weave fiber, or walk to the fields outside the city. Food is simple but essential. Barley bread, porridge, dates, onions, lentils, fish, and beer. Beer is not just entertainment, it is calories, it is payment, it is ritual, it is part of daily life. The city may look impressive from a distance, but inside the home, life is physical. Hands grind, hands carry, hands weave, hands clean, hands build, hands cook, hands repair. There is no life without work. Children are not separated from this world. They grow up inside it. They learn by watching adults and copying them. They carry small loads, help with animals, fetch things, sweep, prepare food, and slowly learn the rules of the city before anyone explains them. A child born in Uruk does not think, "I live in one of humanity's first cities." To that child, the city is simply reality. The temple has always been there. The officials have always counted. The markets have always shouted. The river has always fed the fields. The streets have always smelled of smoke, animals, clay, sweat, and grain. But to humanity as a species, this way of life is new. For the first time, people are living inside a machine bigger than any family can understand. And once a machine becomes that large, memory is no longer enough. In a village, someone might remember who owes grain, who borrowed tools, who worked which field, who married into which family, and who promised what. In a city, memory breaks. Too many people, too many goods, too many transactions, too many debts, too many workers, too many rations. So the city begins to count. How much barley came in? Who delivered it? Who received food? Which workers were assigned? Which animals were counted? Which goods belonged to the temple? Which household owed what? This pressure helps create one of the most important inventions in human history: writing. Not writing for poems at first, not writing for love stories, not writing for novels, speeches, or philosophy. Writing begins as control. Marks on clay help people count grain, sheep, beer, labor, land, and debt. A spoken promise disappears into air. A clay tablet hardens and remains. That is a revolution. The first city changes not only where humans live, but how truth is stored. Before writing, memory lives in people. After writing, memory can live outside the human body. That single change gives institutions a new kind of power. A person can forget. A tablet does not. This is where the first city starts to feel strangely modern, because cities do not run on emotion alone. They run on records, rules, measurements, and systems. And systems create hierarchy. In the first city, not everyone lives the same life. Some people haul bricks under the sun. Some shape pottery. Some weave cloth. Some trade goods. Some work fields outside the city. Some serve temples. Some press symbols into clay. Some manage storage. Some decide where food goes. The city creates specialization, and specialization creates skill. Skill creates better goods. Better goods create trade. Trade creates wealth. Wealth creates status, and status creates inequality. In a small village, people can still be unequal. But in the city, inequality becomes visible at a new scale. One person carries grain, another counts it. One person builds temple walls, another enters the temple courtyard. One person worries about tomorrow's ration, another decides how rations are distributed. The city gives humanity more opportunity than ever before, but it also gives power more places to hide. This is the dark side of the first city. Stored food can save lives during hard times, but stored food can also control lives. If one institution controls grain, it can feed workers. If it feeds workers, it can command labor. If it commands labor, it can build monuments. If it builds monuments, it can display authority. If it displays authority, people begin to see that authority as natural. Civilization does not begin only with kings. It begins with surplus, with storage, with counting, with someone deciding who gets what. And once that question exists, politics begins. Now step into the marketplace. There are no shops with glass windows, no printed prices, no money as you know it. But exchange is everywhere. Baskets of dates, jars of beer, fish from the river, clay bowls, woven cloth, tools, wool, reeds, animals, beads, oil, grain. People inspect goods closely. They argue, they gesture, they measure, they weigh. They promise, they seal. Every trade is a test. Can you trust this person? Is the jar full? Is the weight fair? Is the cloth strong? Is the animal healthy? Is the debt real? The marketplace teaches humans a new skill: how to deal with people outside the circle of kin. That may sound ordinary now, but it is one of the foundations of modern life. The first city forced humans to cooperate with strangers, and strangers are complicated. A stranger can bring wealth. A stranger can bring disease. A stranger can offer work. A stranger can cheat you. A stranger can become your neighbor, your customer, your rival, your creditor, your spouse, or your ruler. This is the emotional tension of city life. The city gives you more people than your brain was built to know personally, so it creates systems to manage what relationships no longer can. Seals, records, rituals, officials, measurements, laws, walls, reputations, punishments. The city is not just made of buildings, it is made of trust under pressure. But trust is not the only problem. Crowding changes the body. The first city probably smelled intense in ways modern people can barely imagine. Smoke from cooking fires, animal dung, sweat, fish, wet clay, stored grain, beer, stagnant water, human waste, leather, reeds, dust. Ancient cities were not clean museum models, they were alive. And living things rot, sweat, breathe, eat, and leave waste behind. When humans live close together, disease has new paths. Shared water can become dangerous. Waste can spread illness. Animals bring parasites. Crowded homes make infection easier. Stored food attracts pests. A village can be unhealthy. A city can become a trap. So why did people stay? Because the city offered things no village could offer at the same scale: protection, work, food storage, trade, ritual, specialists, marriage networks, access to power, access to goods from far away, and something even deeper: identity. To live in the first city was to belong to something larger than your family. You were not just a farmer, potter, laborer, mother, child, or trader. You were part of a world with a center, a temple, a system, a name, a shared story. That matters. Humans do not survive on food alone. They also survive on meaning. And the first city gave meaning a physical shape. You could point to the temple and say, there, that is where the god is honored. That is where the grain is stored. That is where the city gathers. That is where power rises above the rooftops. Architecture became belief you could see. The city told people where they stood. Some spaces were ordinary, some were sacred. Some were public, some were restricted, some were for labor, some were for ritual, some were for storage, some were for command. Every wall taught a lesson. Every raised platform made a statement. Every crowded street reminded you that you were one person inside something larger. And that is what makes the first city so important. It did not simply gather people together. It changed what it meant to be human. For most of our existence, humans lived in small social worlds. The first city expanded that world beyond the limits of personal memory. It created anonymity. It created bureaucracy. It created mass labor. It created organized religion at urban scale. It created long-distance trade. It created economic dependency. It created social classes. It created written records. It created the feeling that life is controlled by systems you may never fully see. That feeling did not begin in the modern age. It began when humans first built cities. Near sunset, the city changes color. The mud brick walls glow warm under the fading light. Smoke rises from rooftops. Workers return tired and dusty. Traders cover their goods. Animals settle. Families prepare food. Somewhere, a scribe presses the final marks into soft clay. Somewhere, a priest prepares a ritual. Somewhere, a child watches the temple silhouette and believes it has always ruled the skyline. From a rooftop, the city may look peaceful for a moment, but inside it are all the forces that will shape the future. Labor, faith, trade, debt, power, disease, ambition, fear, hope. The first city was a miracle. It allowed humans to build bigger, organize better, trade farther, remember longer, and imagine society on a scale no village could hold. But it was also a warning, because every invention that makes humans stronger together can also make them easier to control. The first city gave us civilization, but it also gave us the crowd, the official, the record, the ration, the hierarchy, the stranger, and the system. And maybe that is why the story of the first city still feels so close, because we still wake up inside its invention. We still live among strangers. We still trust records. We still depend on food systems we do not see. We still follow rules made by people we will never meet. We still trade freedom for security, noise for opportunity, privacy for connection, and stress for ambition. The first city did not end the old human struggle. It transformed it. Before cities, humans fought to survive nature. Inside cities, humans began to survive each other. And once we learned to live that way, there was no going back.